It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. And welcome to the big show. Thank you, fake audience. Thank you, very fake band. And welcome, everybody. Let me get the chat room open. There you guys are. Hello, welcome to Monday. And it is a Monday. I am dragging my butt. Woke up at 3:45 this morning to take one of my daughters to the airport for a 6:20 a.m. flight. And probably went to bed around 11:30 last night, so didn't get a lot of sleep. And then on the way home from the airport, we had what might be the biggest rainstorm in the 28 years I've lived in Los Angeles. The rain was so bad that the traffic actually just stopped on the 101 freeway and people were pulling off the road because you couldn't see 5 feet in front of you. So lightning and thunder and everybody in LA is like, woo, storm. Pretty exciting for us, I gotta say. So anyway, going to jump right into it because I can only go till shortly after 5 o'clock today, LA time. I can only do an hour because I've got a meeting coming up. So, let's see. I've got a list of stuff to tell you. Let's see, already ticked off no sleep, covered the storm. Oh, I want to send a thank you and a shout out to Ronan Chris Murphy, who has been on the show several times over the years. He and a group of other folks did an event yesterday, or this weekend in Santa Monica called Audio Bloggers Live. And it was for Phoenix House. The charity was Phoenix House, which years ago, Cara Diaguardi, who's a good friend of ours here at Taxi and has been on Taxi TV, and you probably know her best, is a huge hit songwriter, and she was a judge on American Idol for 2 or 3 seasons. She approached me many, many years ago about building Phoenix House is a rehabilitation place for at-risk teenagers. And she approached me about building studios at the different Phoenix houses around the country. And so I was involved with that project from very early on. And I'm so proud that Ronan and his fellow audio bloggers picked that as their charity. And the proceeds from yesterday's event went to that. I was on a panel with, let's see, Bob Mayer and Jonathan Leahy, and I'm drawing a blank, a gentleman who moderated, who did a really good job, and I'm just absolutely drawing a blank, but he's one of the audio bloggers that's part of this whole thing, and I don't have his name written down here, and I'm sleep deprived, so I can't remember it, but he was awesome. Anyway, great time was had by all. I saw a bunch of Taxi members there, and was proud as always to see them in the audience. So we're going to do universal lyrics today, and we're going to listen to 6 songs for which I have lyric sheets. And we're not going to judge these songs on the quality of the song. Let's keep the chatter down to, excuse me. I ate one of those right before the show and washed it down with one of those. Anyway, so let's not talk about the quality of the song, good or bad, or in the middle, or the chorus should be bigger, or any of that other stuff. Let's just focus on the lyrics and determine if, in fact, they are universal lyrics or not. As always, we won't mention the names of the writers or artists because we don't need to, make anybody feel really good about themselves or really bad about themselves. We're not here to do that. We're here to give input. So I was doing research for the show today and really couldn't find any information on the internet that I thought was better than Robin Frederick's book, Shortcuts to Songwriting for Film and TV. The subject of universal lyrics is certainly out there, and I think that some of the people who were writing about it got their information from the book. Next week, I'm going to have Robin on the show as kind of a follow-up to this show. And next week, we are going to pick her brain about writing universal lyrics. She spent a good solid year writing this book and researching it, and has done such a great job. And I am just going to barely scratch the surface with some comments from her from the book, so that we've got a little foundation before we listen to the songs today on the show. So here we go. And these things aren't necessarily in order as far as their order, where they are in the book. Okay. Oh, I want to start out by reading a taxi listing, or a section of a listing that's very typical for what we put out in our listings. This was a listing we ran not that long ago, if I remember correctly. Oh, actually, no, this one was from April of 2015. I just grabbed one off a stack of stuff from my desk. And it was for lustful soul songs with male vocals needed by a music supervisor for non-exclusive placements in an independent feature. And the part that is most apropos for today's show is this. Submit sexy time, in quotes, songs that are well-structured with inviting melodies and a solid groove and vocal performance that's soulful, passionate, smooth, and sensual. Oh, yeah. Seductive lyric themes will work best for this pitch, but keep them universal, avoiding references to specific names, dates, times, places, brands, and profanity. Do not copy or rip off the reference artists in any or their songs in any way, shape, or form. Blah, blah, blah. You know the rest. So, again, keep them universal, avoiding references to specific names, dates, times, places, brands, and profanity. On occasion, people actually want stuff. We just had a listing, I think, for rap or hip-hop a couple of weeks ago where they were looking for stuff that was fairly hardcore because that was the nature of the film that they were doing. But most of the time, they don't want profanity. If you want to increase your odds of getting stuff placed, in the industry, the word is keep it clean. You'll see the word clean used. We don't use it because people were calling us up going, what does clean mean? So we just say avoid profanity. So Robin, in her book, says, short cup number 50, increase your opportunities for placements with this simple tip. It's the end of a TV season. Everyone is watching the final episode of a hugely successful TV drama. The two most popular characters are finally getting married after nearly losing each other to jealous ex-lovers, life-threatening diseases, and the usual dramatic twists. For the wedding scene, the music supervisor has chosen a romantic pop ballad called Sheila, I Love You. The bride walks down the aisle. The groom stares lovingly at her as the song fades in and swells to full volume, and the audience wonders, who the heck is Sheila? The bride and groom are Ben and Brittany. So Robin says, make sure your lyric content or your lyric doesn't conflict with the script. Common sense, right? You would think. A lot of people don't know that. Character names, locations, and dates are the kind of specific physical details determined by the scriptwriter. Since songs come into the picture very late in the process, often after the script is written and shooting is completed, you can give your song a better chance of being placed by avoiding these kinds of details. Yes, you will occasionally hear songs used in the film and TV market that include a place or a person's name. Sometimes a song like this makes the cut because it's by the character or by the director's favorite band. Maybe someday you'll be her favorite band, but right now you're not. This type of song can be used as source music. It doesn't matter if a radio in the background is playing a song called Sheila, but why limit your placement opportunities to source music? Give yourself the best shot you can by pitching songs that avoid specific names. So, yes, virtually all of our film and TV listings have the thing about wanting universal lyrics. And I sit at home. You guys know that I'm a fanatic about listening to the music in TV shows. And I hear stuff all the time where the lyrics aren't universal. And I just whack myself in the head, go, geez, why are we always telling our members to submit stuff with universal lyrics? Robin makes the point in the book, which is, why limit yourself? Yes, it could be used in a bar scene, a jukebox across a room where you can barely hear it. It sounds muffly and really far away. And the lyrics are almost meaningless. The song is really played in the background to kind of set the tone or the mood or the atmosphere for a place or a time. So the lyrics aren't really important because chances are, unless you're really listening carefully, you're not going to hear them and you're not going to notice that the name Sheila might be in there. But maybe the next three music supervisors that need that type of song want it for, something where you would hear the name Sheila. So there you go. Leave out those names, dates, times, places, brands, and profanity. Obviously, you know what? Let's talk about brands for a second. You don't want brands in there because, you may have a song about kicking back with your friends at the lake in the summertime. That's kind of a general and universal thing, but gets a little specific. But it gets really bad if you mention sipping on Budweiser. You may not have the legal right to use Budweiser in the song. The show may not want to wrestle with that issue from a legal or copyright standpoint. And could be that the characters are not sipping Budweiser. Maybe they're drinking soda pop, or maybe they're drinking Heineken. So by putting a proper name in or a brand name in there, you're limiting your possibilities. So there you go. Okay, moving on to another, and this I'm just barely touching the stuff. I'm going to have Robin really get into this stuff next week. In the book, she interviews several music supervisors or production music library owners. And this one says, the question she asked was, I notice they'll often bring up the chorus of a song at the end of a scene to turn a spotlight on an emotion or theme that's in the scene. And the person from the publishing company says, that's correct, and that's one way of telling part of the story, and that's why it's so important for the hook to be strong, because that is what gets used and not necessarily the verses. Often true. The chorus is usually the part they will use first. Maybe they'll use the verse if it's more apropos. Maybe they'll use the verse because it leads into the chorus, and then the chorus gets mixed up hot because there's a place with no dialogue, and they want the chorus to really pop to make a point there. The hook needs to be a focused one-liner like a movie tagline for the song. That's why it should be universal, catchy. It's like writing copy for a movie tagline. Then Robin has a note that says a movie tagline is a single compelling sentence or phrase used in trailers and print ads that conveys the feel and content of a film. So the next question she posed was, would you say you look for songs, and again she's talking to a publisher, would you look for songs that have a range of possible uses or placements? And again, this is a film and TV specific publisher. And the publisher responds, yes, most of the time. About 80 to 90% of the time, I'm looking for songs that can be used in a variety of ways. So this... and then she goes on to ask, can you give me an idea of what is meant by universal lyrics? Publisher responds, for example, in country music, there's a very specific story that's told in the lyric, and that doesn't work for film and television most of the time. If you're telling a very specific story, how many times is there going to be a scene that's going to match exactly what your lyrics say? So if you're talking about love, which is the most common theme that people write about, a universal love theme would be, let's celebrate our love. Or it's a great day because you love me, but not I'm marrying this woman and now we're at the altar and now we're at the reception. The songs that get placed the most are the ones about having a great time, partying, celebrating. You can't write enough songs about that. How many times have you heard the Black Eyed Peas, I Got a Feeling? I mean, that song, I don't think we could even count the number of syncs that song has had. The song is being used everywhere right now because it's about having a good time. I'm feeling great. The idea that tonight's the night, a line from I Got a Feeling, it can be used for the Oscars, party scenes at a dance or in a bar in the background. So that's what I mean by a universal lyric. It has the ability to be used in so many instances as opposed to just once or twice. So that underscores the point I made earlier, or that Robin made, I should say, earlier. Yes, Robin, if you're watching today's show, I'm stealing liberally from your book, but it's all part of a setup for next week's show when you will be here with me. In Robin's book, she says, in shortcut number 47, write universal lyrics for the best chance of success. Am I being redundant here? Lyrics that reach a large audience and work with many scenes are a plus. The word universal gets tossed around a lot when talking about song lyrics for film and television. Music users in the film and TV market often say they're looking for songs with universal lyrics, but what does that mean? A universal lyric is a lyric that a large number of people can identify with or relate to. A lyric that will not conflict with the specific content of a scene. Yes, I agree. A good film or TV lyric is one that evokes an experience for the audience. While the on-screen action takes care of the physical details, the who, what, when, where, your job is to fill in the emotional details, making the audience feel or understand the experience on a deeper level and identify with or sense what it would be like to be there. So that just underscores everything that I've said, and I think I had one more page tabbed. Maybe I did not. All right, now I covered all the stuff. I don't want to, there's a ton more in the book, and Robin, like I said, I really don't know anybody on the planet who is a world-class expert like she is. If you own Shortcuts to Hit Songwriting, and which was Robin's first book, and you haven't picked up a copy of this one yet, get it. It's amazing how many people think, well, I learned a lot from the first book, therefore I don't really need the second book. They're completely different books, and this one is about film and TV specifically, and it says tips for writing, recording, and pitching in today's hottest market. It is the hottest market. And you know what? Yesterday when I was at the Audio Bloggers Live event, it was kind of surprising to me. You know, there were probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 taxi members scattered throughout an audience of a couple hundred people there. I had people coming up to me for probably 45 minutes or so after my panel was over. Most of them had absolutely no idea or very little idea about pitching music for film and TV, whether it was instrumental cues or songs. So the panel was revelatory for them. They're like, wow, this is great information. And there is only one book about this stuff out there, and it's the Bible, so get it. And you know what? Truth be told, little full disclosure here, I am the publisher. If you buy a copy of this book and you don't find it to be absolutely wonderful, send it back in great condition so we could resell it, and I will refund your money on the book. I don't think any other book publisher would do that for you, but I will, because I have only had, I think, one person try to return, or did return, either of Robin's two books in the 7 or 8 years that I've been her publisher on these books. So I have very little doubt that, I don't think I'm going to get a lot of people asking for their money back. So there you go. Hello to everybody. How much is the book? You know, it's discounted. Amazon gives a 10% discount, so it's roughly $30, I want to say. It's like $29 with the discount. It's worth every penny. It is absolutely worth every penny. You know what? If you got one sync, even like a no sync fee up front kind of sync, you're bound to make $35 on a song being in a TV show. So you get one sync, it pays for the book. Plus, even if you don't get it, don't buy the book thinking, I'm going to buy this book and a week later I'm going to get something synced into a TV show or a movie. But it will teach you how to write in a way that makes your songs much more appealing for music supervisors. And that's the point. So, yeah. I mean, how much is it worth to have Robin Frederick sitting at your side as you're writing? The cool thing about both of her books is the fact that she's got all these different shortcuts. Shortcut number 53. Shortcut number... I'm looking for another shortcut. 81. So you don't have to read the book in a linear fashion. And I know a lot of people don't like to read books. It takes a lot of time, maybe a lot of effort. You won't be able to put this down when you start reading it. And you know what? You will always have it at arm's length when you're working, because you can go, whatever your problem is, whatever you need a solution or an answer for, you pick up the book, you look in the index, you go to that page and go, look at that. There it is, right there. So enough of plugging the book. It is that amazing. Rob Spencer says you'll have to rip my copy from my cold dead hands. Attaboy, Rob. I love that. Taxi should give a free book for membership. We actually ran a promotion, I think a couple years ago, where like the first 50 people that joined in a particular week got a free copy of the book. Okay, I'll raise the price of Taxi to, $329.95, and there's your free book. Anyway, okay, so let's get started. I want to say thank you to all the people who submitted today, because it takes a lot of courage to have your song analyzed, on Taxi TV by kind of a jury of your peers. But the folks that are listening here, we're all here for the common good, to elevate everybody's skill set. So let's start out with a song called Be With You. And let me check my levels. They are good. My nose is itching. Yes, did I use a little makeup on my shiny nose?
It's been so long since I've held you. Oh, since we're together. Oh, since I felt you kiss you. I missed you. It's been so long. I just gotta feel you. Oh, close next to me. Oh, come on, dance with me. With me, yeah. Finally, the night is here. The stars appear. I sense you near. Let's do what we came to do. It's all to be with you. It's on tonight. Waiting forever. Oh, make it all better. Oh, be the drifter, so splendor. It's on tonight. Coming and get ya. Oh, I'll let ya. Oh, make up for all the time. Finally, the night is here. The stars appear. I sense you near. Let's do what we came to do. It's all to do. It's all to do. I'll be with
All right, now, before, you know what, go ahead and cast your votes. +1 if you think that song had a universal lyric. Just concentrate on the lyric and the universality of it. +1 if you would vote that that is a universal lyric. I am curious to see what you say. Russell Landwehr in his usual good spelling. Lyrics, Lyrix. It's all right. I do thanks, THX, all the time. Uh, Peter Rahill says it's catchy, whatever she's singing about. Yeah, some people are commenting it was a little hard to understand the lyric. Um, I'll read you some. By the way, really minor thing, but maybe not so minor. The person that sent this in, the lyric that we heard while it was playing is not exactly in the order that it is on the lyric sheet. It's been kind of moved around. Um, Most music supervisors don't ever request a lyric sheet. Maybe somebody working on a feature film, maybe a TV music soup might request a lyric sheet if a song is going to be really featured um, in a montage, let's say at the end, a video montage that's got no dialogue, and the lyric really has to carry the emotion and the storyline forward. They may request a lyric sheet kind of after they fall in love with the song and they're feeling pretty darn good about it just to make sure that it works. But as a general rule of thumb, I can't remember the last time we had a music soup that said, oh, yeah, by the way, send me the lyrics. There are exceptions to every rule, but it's just something that doesn't happen a lot. So virtually everybody said that that was a plus one. Um, Magea says we need a karaoke bouncing ball for the lyrics. That's a great idea. Uh, I would say yes. That is a universal lyric. I mean, obviously, it's generally about a guy and a girl getting together, and where that's going to take them. I don't want to get too specific, but it infers a romantic moment. Let's say to make up for all the time apart. So I saw some stuff in there, and I'm going, geez, am I being too picky? Um, Here, I'm going to give you some examples of stuff that if I wanted to be picky, I could be. But generally speaking, I would agree with all you guys that this was a universal lyric. And Russell, I'll get to that question. Oh, Russell asked a very pertinent question, so I'm going to take it right now, which is, so do they need to be able to understand the lyrics without a lyric sheet? Um, I could think of a lot of cases where none of us could understand the lyrics, where, I mean, like, some of the really gravelly, I've got gravel in my voice right now. Some of the really gravelly, kind of muffly, very reverby, roomy, acoustic, rusty acoustic guitar string, singer-songwriter stuff that sometimes you can't understand what the hell it's about, and sometimes the lyric is really whacked out anyway, but it's all about the mood and the texture that works with the scene, which is always the most important thing. So I can't say that as a general rule that you can always understand the lyrics or that that's a requirement for music supervisors. It depends on the context of what their need is at the moment. How's that? And I'm not trying to skate out of giving you a direct answer, but it is. It's all about context. Okay, so things that I saw in there that could disqualify it, but generally I agree that it's a universal lyric. Um, it's been so long. Okay, well, what if these people just met in our film? So this is only going to work in the context of a scene where two people have been apart and it's been so long since they've been back together. Um, Finally, the night is here. Well, I could be really picky and say, oh, really? So they can't be in love, or this romantic moment can't happen during the day, but let's face it, most of the time it happens at night, so I'm going to give them that one. And then further down it says, it's on tonight. Um, and then the vocal or the lyric says, I've been a drifter, so splintered. Kind of didn't make sense to me, but I've been a drifter. But you know what? I'm being really picky. And frankly, I don't think that if a music supervisor heard this for a scene and went, tempo wise, energy wise, emotion wise, on many levels, like 6 out of 8 cylinders, this is working for me. I don't think they're going to go to a line like "I've been a drifter" that's in a verse and disqualify the song. I think that they're going to go, "Yep, let's listen to the chorus. Works for me." Make up for all the time apart. So we're revisiting that issue of these people have been apart. Now they're back together again. So there you go. So you could disqualify some parts of it, but chances are, as Robin mentions in her book, that more often than not, I think it was actually the publisher in the interview said, more often than not, they're going to go for the chorus, which I agree with. So some of those verse moments probably don't matter all that much. So I'm going to agree with you guys and give this one the universal round of applause. Okay, moving on, because I'm playing Beat the Clock today. All right, this one is called Lost.
You were lost, no one knew where. Lost without you, drowning in these shared tears. Ran in circles, searching for you everywhere. Disappeared into a waking nightmare. Tiptoes so no bombs go off. Had to spot truth. Flirt, danger could prove. Blame and shame give no clues. Try, upset you get. Won't save mad, I accept. Bleak and fear are in bed. Like ill avoid spreads. Help is on the way. If that's what you need. If it takes always. Whatever you seek. Love awaits the lost. Wherever they wander. Know that you're loved. If ever you wonder. Sometimes the answer's not right. Running takes us too far. And we gotta come back to where we started. You were lost, no one knew where. Lost without you, drowning in these shared tears. Ran in circles, searching for you everywhere. Disappeared into a waking nightmare. A world without you isn't one I want. If you're there, call back. Just someone know you're okay. If you wanna be lost, I will look no more. If you wanna be found, I'll break down your door. Sometimes the answer's not right. Running takes us too far. And we gotta come back to where we started. You were lost, no one knew where. Lost without you, drowning in these shared tears. Ran in circles, searching for you everywhere.
All right, cast your votes. +1 if you thought that was a universal lyric, -1 if you think it was too specific. Be nice, Mr. Rayhill. Some of you guys crack me up. Nothing about Pabst Blue Ribbon's so pretty universal. That's a beer you don't see a whole lot anymore. Certainly not out here. I grew up in the Midwest, though, saw plenty of it there. Um, all right, I'm going to say the vast majority of you said that that was, in fact, a universal lyric. And I tend to agree. I mean, it's about lost and found. It could work in a lot of scenes, but I forgot to do this with the last song, so I'm going to do it with this song. Blurt out some examples. What types of scenes would this work with? That's a really good test of whether or not a lyric is universal. Remember in the interview in Robin's book, the publisher was talking about, it's got to be something that I can pitch, meaning the publisher, at several different types of things. The more they can pitch it, the more they're going to make money with it. So that's why publishers like universal lyrics. So, what kind of scenes? I'm really curious for your input on that. Hipsters love PBR. David SJH says heartbreak. Okay, so a heartbreak scene. Um, didn't really touch any heartstrings. A woman stroking the hair of a puking boyfriend who OD'd on something. Could you be more specific? The mom and kid in Labyrinth and The Shining. Maybe the guy OD'd on Pabst Blue Ribbon beer, Russell. Um, Runaways, family dramas, crime. With the stuff is scrolling by so quickly. Uh, Rob Spencer says, I gave a +1, but the song didn't move me. Not sure what it could be used for. See? So while it may be safe and universal in that it doesn't have a lot of specifics in it, if you can't think of a number of different scenes or types of scenes, then maybe it's not as universal as we need it to be. Um, a character walking in a park. I don't know if I agree with that one, Mary Band. Um, someone running in the rain to try and escape the pain of heartbreak. See, I'm a little concerned because of the whole lost and found push pull tug of war that's going on here. What I mean, certainly, love lost is a very popular theme. It's probably close to being as popular as new love or found love. Love awaits the lost wherever they wander. Know that you're loved if you ever wonder. Um, Sometimes the answer's not right. Running takes us too far, and we got to come back to where we started. You were lost, no one knew where. Lost without you, drowning in tears. Ran in circles, searching everywhere. Disappeared into a walking nightmare. A world without you isn't one I want. If you're there, call back just so I know you're okay. It's the old call back just so I know if you're okay routine. None of us have ever tried that, right? Um, if you want to be lost, I will look no more. If you want to be found, I'll break down your door. I don't know. if this lady's going to break down some dude's door, he may not want to be found. Maybe that's the reason he's lost. Little scary. Anyway, I mean, the tone of it, the tempo of it, obviously the lady singing has a very interesting and pretty voice. And it's kind of haunting. And I mean, lyrically, I'm not anywhere near the lyric expert that Robin Frederick is. But in my humble opinion, the lyric is a little scattered and it's a little poetic. And because of that, it kind of gets away with the fact that you could call it universal. It touches on all these things that we have probably all felt at one point or another, in a relationship that went south. So I personally am going to say that this is relatively universal. You could probably find scenes. Clearly, the one I always use on the show, guy and girl break up and she goes and sits, he leaves the apartment and she's sitting in the bay window looking down on the street, which is getting soaked by rain, and he's getting drenched, and she's got her cup of tea and her little blanket and her kitty cat, and she's looking out thinking, geez, maybe I shouldn't have dumped the guy. This could probably work for that. Or she could be kicking in his door with a 10-inch knife blade. Oh, man. All right. Michael's about to fix the blinds, I bet. Oh, you noticed that? Yeah, it's that time of day, that time of year. I think the sun just went over the mountain, so it leaks in between the blinds, as all of you regulars would know. All right. Did anyone make a track out of the noise from the protest at the road rally? We are definitely off topic. All right. How are we doing on time? Got to kick it into gear. Oh, by the way, John Carnatz, I was handed your letter right before the show. Thank you very much. I called John. He had an issue with the listing about, 4 or 5 days ago. We spoke on the phone, had a really nice conversation. I actually ended up speaking with John's wife. And I'm from Illinois, he's from Illinois. So we had a nice little chat. And he sent a really nice letter today thanking me for the personal phone call. And I've got to say, it was my pleasure, John. I love speaking with you guys and really loved getting that letter. So thank you for making my day. I appreciate that more than you know. All right, moving on now. This one is called Head in the Clouds. And again, we're listening for it. And keep in mind, as you're listening, what kinds of scenes that you think this could work for, and is it universal or not?
My eyes look around for things they've already found. My shoes already wore a path into the ground, and the coat that's on my back feels like a hand me down. Then you smile, and it takes me to a higher place. Head in the clouds, he put my head in the clouds, where I can float above the rain. I can taste the horizon, though it's miles away. Ooh, and I could spend all day with my head in the clouds. I might be setting myself up for the biggest fall. I might be too far away for anyone to hear my call. And from way up in the sky, everything looks so small. But your smile, it's everything I need to see. Head in the clouds, you put my head in the clouds, where I can float Like the storms of yesterday, my worries just wash themselves away. Yeah. Head in the clouds, you put my head in the clouds where I can float above the rain. I can taste the horizon, though it's miles away. Ooh, and I could spend all day with my head in the clouds.
All right, cast your votes. +1 if you think it was a universal lyric, -1 if you think it was not so universal. Fluff or puff, keep it clean. Just be nice. It's a family show most of the time, so keep it clean. I know you didn't go too far over the edge, but play nice. Or nicely if you speak really good English. Oh, you actually said that. Hey, let's play nice. All right. Okay, the numbers are rolling in. Oh, man, I got to scroll the other way. There we go. I think so far almost all, vast majority are +1s. We got a few -1s coming in. Okay. All right. So I had a couple of issues. And one thing I want to address that's a little bit off topic, but somewhat topical nonetheless, and it was brought up by Russell Landwehr, who's paying close attention. He talks about the song has kind of a negative sonic palette, if you will. Chord structure, it's a little, the lyrics are more positive than the music, and they sound a little mismatched. And I learned from the late, great John Brahaney a word that, frankly, I hadn't heard in the first probably 25 years of my career, which was prosody, which is the melody and the lyric, how they line up together. Do they work well together? So I tend to agree with Russell. It's a good observation that the lyrics are mostly positive, but actually, I might be setting myself up for the biggest fall. I might be too far away for anyone to hear my call. And from way up in the sky, everything looks so small. So there's a lot of disconnect in this lyric. I really don't know what the song is about, but I tend to agree with Russell that it's almost, to me, it could be like a psychedelic era song, but doesn't quite go that far in that direction, but maybe, as far as what the lyric content is about. But it starts out very early in the song with my shoes already wore this path into the ground, and the coat that's on my back feels like a hand-me-down. It's in the verse. It's early in the song. It probably wouldn't get used. They'd probably go right to the chorus, but before you get there, it's got a couple lines. Then you smile and it takes me to a higher place. Who's the you? Where did this other person come from? And now I'm talking just regular old lyric writing. Forget the universal stuff. But I know that a lot of my publisher friends in Nashville would say, where did this person come from? Who's the you? Why are they there? How did they get there? There's some disconnect there. So the chorus is, head in the clouds. You put my head in the clouds where I can float above the rain. I can taste the horizon, though it's miles away. Ooh, I could spend all day with my head in the clouds. Um, Relatively general and universal. Not a lot of specifics. It could be a scene where somebody's, oh, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I want you guys. Tell me what kind of scene that you think this could work for. Mojo says, dissonant intervals, not exactly happy music. Yeah, and most of the lyric I think is kind of happy. Seems like Russell says it seems like the singer is saying they are going through life sort of oblivious, and it's because their girl makes them feel that way. Okay, I buy that. Um, you isn't universal. I am going to let Robin address that because she actually addresses that specific thing, the you, me, I, they. Robin goes into pronoun land um, in the book, and I want her to speak about that next week. Mojo says the royal you. uh, Gaius says man in love who thinks he's getting back together but not. Okay, so that's a scene description. Um, okay, yeah, where is he? Where's the scene taking place? Where are we seeing this guy go through this thing? Remember in Robin's book, she talks about the physical. Um, so even though the lyric shouldn't have a physical description in it, can we imagine a scene from like we're looking from a bird's eye view down at a scene or, into a room where a scene is taking place or a meadow or a forest or a busy street or a cafe? Um, where is this person who's going through that? Jim Carvalho says depressed scene, perhaps smoking pot. Okay. Texas Polly says it was definitely psychedelic. Robbie Hancock says Ralph Murphy is definitely also a master of pronouns. That he is. Head in my clouds. Ken DePotter says a pilot in love with a happy face. Uh, Man is happy to be in love. Somewhere with rain and tombstones. Interesting. I'm guessing that Mojo said that because it's got kind of this. I don't know what you call it. It's not really sad. It's somewhat introspective sounding, even though it's really not all that introspective. Um, McGath says celebrating a guy celebrating. I'm assuming a guy celebrating with his buddies. Cut to girl hunting men. That's supposed to be hurting men or hunting men? Is it one of those movies with very tall women with, like swords and bows and arrows going after the guys? Peter Rahill says a hang glider. Man drifts off into the cosmos. Uh, DJ says a dark bar night scene. Bob Crow. Well, he just identified himself as the writer. So he's outed himself, and he says, for what it's worth, I had advertising in mind when I wrote it. Um, I'd love to. Give me some products that you think this would work for, Bob. I'm curious. Most of the time, as you probably know from being around taxi for a while, that most advertising stuff they're looking for kind of up tempo, emotionally upbeat, positive. Sometimes they'll go negative, but the vast majority of music and advertising is kind of bouncy, up tempo, emotionally, up tempo in meter, and emotionally upbeat, meaning happy, positive. So this feels a little slow and a little not all that positive to me. So I'm curious to see what kind of advertising. Ooh, I just scrolled off the page. Shoot. Camera ads. Um, Major Look says a weed store in Denver. There you go. Plenty of those. Uh, Robbie Hancock says, yes, it could work for The Martian, the movie The Martian, or when there's an explosion and the person drifts away. Got my head in the clouds. Um, Feet above the rain. I can taste the horizon, though it's miles away. Yeah, there actually is some era, probably the psychedelic era, in some bands. I just can't think of who they are now, that this would match up with. And I could see a song like this getting used for something like that. What was the movie of Sandra Bullock? It was a one-word title. Great movie. She was an astronaut. Bubble says a near-death experience. Um, York peppermint patties. Gravity. Right. The movie Gravity, I guess, it might be a bit of a tongue in cheek placement, but, she was working on the space station. It gets destroyed by space junk from a Russian satellite, I think, and she drifts off into space and somehow miraculously makes it to a Russian space capsule using a fire extinguisher as the propellant, which I thought was very, very novel. Totally unbelievable, but novel nonetheless. Anyway, so yeah, generally speaking, kind of universal. Man, I can't wait until Robin's here because she would have a much better answer than I personally do on that one. All right, moving on because we're running out of time here. This one is called Why Love Goes On.
Breaking dawn without you here. What is love for? It makes me wonder. You give, you get, they take it back. The stain in your coffee cup lasts longer. I don't know why love goes on, but it does. I don't know why love goes on, but it broken hearts still want to try. Do they ever get stronger? Friends and poets, no one knows why. Love never quite goes under. I don't know why love goes on, but it does. I don't know
All right. +1 if you think that lyric was universal, -1 if you think it was not universal. And after we do the vote on that, let's look at what kind of scenes. Again, it's, as you guys obviously saw, it's another love song. So it's funny how deeply affected people are by breakups, broken hearts. We all carry that around inside. It stays with us, I think, forever. We can all remember the one heartbreak, right? West LA Steve says -1 for the coffee, the mention of coffee, which is fairly early in the song, if I remember. Yeah, it was in the second verse. You give, you get, they take it back. The stain in your coffee cup lasts longer. I went, huh? Coffee cup stain? What? And then I had to stop and think for a minute. Is that, the stain in the coffee cup represents the length of the relationship, that there was coffee in there for a long time and it stained the cup? I don't know. I couldn't make sense of that. But I was still trying to just look at strictly from a standpoint of universal versus not. Um, Russell Landwehr, I think he's kidding a little bit, maybe. He is a bit of a joker. That coffee cup line is really good and universal, in my opinion. I can't tell if you're joking or not, Russell. Um, all right, so kind of a mixed bag in this one. Um, Go ahead and let me know. Yeah, I'm gonna say most people are saying it's pretty universal. Um, what kind of scene would you use it in? If you were a music supervisor and you heard this song and you were doing an entire season of a particular show, what would you put this, on your hard drive, on your desktop, on a shelf? What would you save it up for? What kind of scene could it possibly work? Russell said, sorry, he wasn't joking. I'm serious. It's a simile that I thought was pretty darn good. At first, I read that as smile. That's because my eyes are a little tired from getting up at 3:45 this morning. Lingering sense of love, letting go. Heroine looking pensive under a montage. That scrolled off the page too fast. Lounge scene at a casino on an Indian reservation. Okay. I get lost in the rhythm and don't pay good attention to the lyrics. Uh, Vicky says nighttime after breaking up. Um, Somebody mentioned the mix, and I actually made a note about that. The vocal was really, really loud. It was good for our purposes to hear the lyric, but the vocal was pretty darn loud, gotta say. Um, Coffee commercials, the stain in your coffee cup lasts longer. I don't know. I can't see an advertiser being proud of the fact that their coffee stains the cup. Um, Movie intro and ending, closing credits, -1, -1. Don't understand that. Sorry, pure heart. A scene after saying goodbye when the door closes or the person lays down to sleep. And funny enough, the first line, the actual first two words in the song are breaking dawn without you here. So, breaking dawn. It mentions the time, but like I said before, I don't think that the earlier song mentioning night was so horrible because if I remember correctly, it was a romantic, inference, let's say, and nighttime is what many people how can I say this delicately? People associate those goings on with nighttime. Breaking dawn without you here, yeah, that certainly gives an image. The empty bed, the classic, almost cliched empty bed scenario where somebody wakes up, uh, you know, and you're not there. Oh, Um, I don't know why love goes on, but it does. I don't know why love goes on, but it does. Um, Broken Hearts. Oh, okay. So the theme of this song, I'm actually looking at the lyric now from a different perspective. The theme of the song is no matter how badly you're heartbroken, love still goes on. It still wants to try. Do they ever get stronger? I'm not sure who the they are. Friends and poets, no one ever knows why. Love never quite goes under. So yeah, it's saying that love is invincible. It always goes on. So there are probably parts of this that could be used. The thing that makes it pretty unusable, in my opinion, is the fact, just from a purely songwriting, melodic standpoint, somewhat it affects the production as well. It's a two-chord song, I think, if I remember correctly. It's kind of a 1-4, back and forth, and it becomes fairly monotonous. It's really, really, really hard to pull off a two-chord song unless you do something so spectacular in the chorus that it makes you forget that it's a two-chord song. And this song doesn't really all that clearly define the chorus. I could figure out where it was, but I kind of had to look for it. So that's just a general songwriting observation. Um, Larry Whittier says, this has been a great show. I think I learned that it's really a challenge to separate the lyric from the melody, performance production to accurately critique the words alone. No question about it. I'm telling you, our screeners earn every penny they make out there in that room. People think that we've got a room full of, snobby industry know-it-alls sitting out there going, aha, broke another heart. No, it's challenging. It's really, really hard. It's really easy to say it works or it doesn't work. It's really hard to say why it doesn't work and how you can make it better. And that is the crux of what we do here is if it's not working, why it's not working. And we always want to give you at least one takeaway, even in the short form critiques, where if you tried that, it might be more usable. So hopefully we're accomplishing some of that. Island Julie says, after 5, Michael, time for your meeting. Yeah, I've got, I can go till like 5:15 sharp. I got to end it. Okay, let's listen to one more song, and then we will have to wait with bated breath for next week with Robin to really get into the stuff. Okay, this song is called Stay.
Sometimes it's hard to stay the path, and some words are meant for taking back, and saying I love you, we should never make you sad. Sometimes it's easier to lie when you're not looking into someone's eyes. But I'll ask anyway and hope you don't look away. So will you stay? I'll change everything. You don't understand how a broken heart can fix a man. But I've always tried not to complain. Sometimes you need to feel the pain. You can't let love go if love wants to stay. Sometimes it's hard to stay the path.
I'm giving it the early fade. And not because I don't like it, because I do, but because I've got limited time. So cast your votes. And I'm going to read you the chorus line. So will you stay with me? I'll change everything. You don't understand how a broken heart can fix a man. Is that a universal thought, a universal lyric? Could that be applied to a bunch of scenes? Wow, stuff just flew in here. Better than half the songs listened to on the radio. I like the guitar. This one's very good, in my opinion. +2, +1, +1, +1, +1, +1, +1, +1. All right, lots of +1s. Everybody's loving it, and thinks that it's got a universal lyric. I couldn't agree more. I didn't hear this one before the show. I think, first of all, just on a songwriting level, it's got a huge chorus. And it is a universal feel. I mean, you can imagine this. It's somebody who wants to be taken back. This guy screwed up. So will you stay with me? I'll change everything. You don't understand how a broken heart can fix a man temporarily, right? I think that is applicable in, I mean, obviously, very similar scene, but clearly it's a breakup and the guy just wants her to rethink it. And I just think that's incredibly good lyric crafting. So will you stay with me? I'll change everything. You don't understand how a broken heart can fix a man. Notice the compactness and the economic use of lyrics. This is like Don Henley writing right there. I think, it's just very few words conveys a very obvious feeling that could be used in so many. Is the composer in the room? Take me back, please. Waddy JP says, but this only works for a guy that's brokenhearted, not for a woman. That's true. I mean, I can't argue with that, but I still think it's got a lot of possibility. Yeah, I mean, you could replace it with no, it'd be too hard. You don't understand how a broken heart can fix a woman. No, that's not going to work. All right, so Babel, I believe Babel 720 outed him or herself. I have no idea if, oh yeah, I do, by looking at the name on the thing. Yeah, that's incredibly good, and I think pretty darn universal and very usable. I also love, I mean, right away it grabs you. Sometimes it's hard to stay the path. Some words aren't meant for taken back. And saying I love you should never make you sad. Okay. Sometimes it's easier to lie when you're not looking into someone's eyes, but I'll ask you anyway and hope you don't look away. Really, really good. Anyway, I got to run, you guys. I've got to go to this meeting. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me today in my sleepless in Los Angeles mode. I hope this show is meaningful and helpful and is a good launching pad for next week when we've got Robin here, because while we all played music supervisor today and tried to analyze whether or not something would work, when Robin opens her mouth next week, you're going to hear the queen of film and TV music, or songs for film and TV. Seriously, there's nobody out there that gets it better. So I will see you guys next week. Thank you for your input. Thank you to all the brave people who submitted music today. I appreciate it more than you know. And see you on the next episode of Taxi TV Live. Bye-bye, you guys. Woo!